We created 6 million new jobs, more jobs in 1 year than any time before. The unemployment rate dropped to 3.9%. Child poverty dropped by nearly 40%, the biggest drop ever in American history. New business applications grew by 30%, the biggest increase ever. And for the first time in a long time, this country people actually got a raise.
6 days ago, President Biden gave on signing the bipartisan infrastructure law to help build a better America. It should not go unnoticed that the key part here is better. So what does a better America look like? Better looks like modern roads and bridges, rail and transit, so we can get to school and work on time. Better looks like high-speed internet so that all of our kids have the tools they need to learn, so farmers can use precision agriculture, and so that seniors can access telemedicine and much more. Better looks like lead pipes, cleaning up abandoned oil and gas wells that dirty communities build 100,000 electric vehicle charging stations, prepare us for our future. Better looks like creating good-paying union jobs, a top priority for this president. The best is making it possible for companies to manufacture products right here in America, build our supply chains here so that Americans can get what they need more efficiently and lower cost. Better looks like using this investment in our infrastructure and our people to build more resilience and combat climate change, which threatens us all. And finally, and most important, better looks like rebuilding America in ways that move all of us forward with equity at the center of everything that we do. No community and no person is left behind because we are better together, and diversity is this nation's greatest strength. That is what building a better America looks like. Mr. President, your team has hit the ground running. 60 days in, billions of dollars are headed to the people of America through the states, local governments, territories, and tribes. We're breaking down silos across agencies. This is a one-team, one-fight mission to build a better, stronger America. And since we haven't spent this kind of money on infrastructure in generations, we're all about how to do it with accountability, making sure we can be good stewards of the taxpayers' dollars and deliver results on task and on budget. Mr. President, with this cabinet and the partners we have on the state and local level, with community leaders and the people of this great nation, we are to the challenge. It won't be easy. Nothing worth doing, if ever is. So, Mr. President, you set a very high standard, but we're going to put our shoulder to the wheel, and we're going to get it done for our beloved country. Thank you. Please welcome the President of the United States.
The lives of elected leaders.
Well, thank you very much, Mitch. It is, there's a lot of talk about disappointments and things we haven't gotten done. We're going to get a lot of them done, I might add. But this is something we did get done, and it's of enormous consequence to the country. One of the reasons I put Mr. Landrieu in charge of implementing the infrastructure bill is because he gets it. He's a former mayor who knows that the real measure is not did we score some partisan points. It's did we fix the problem? Did we fix the problem? This is all about fixing the problem. I ran for president to unite the country. This bipartisan infrastructure law I signed 2 months ago unites us around things we all depend on. Whether you're in rural Kentucky or downtown Philadelphia, you should be able to turn on the faucet and drink clean water. Students should be able to get the internet if they needed to do their homework at home instead of having to drive a fast food parking lot. People need good jobs. Mitch just told me about the man he met in Jackson, Mississippi. He told him, quote, "I don't mind working 3 jobs. I just don't want one paycheck across all 3 jobs." You know, we've heard it said, talent is easily distributed, but opportunity is not. When we invest in infrastructure, we're really investing in opportunity. These are investments that will build a better America. Sounds like hyperbole, but it's real. Today I want to talk about the progress we've made in 2 months since I signed the bill into law and to make a big announcement as well. Here's some of what we've done so far. The Department of Transportation has released nearly $53 billion
of
to
democracy.
the states to modernize highways.
Fragility.
So you have to leave 30
And
minutes early to
strength.
get to work just because of a traffic,
You
and
see,
that's
the
going to be
strength
fixed.
of democracy
We've announced more than
is the rule of
204
law.
million
Strength
grants to
of
improve ports
democracy is
in
the
9
principle
states to
that
speed up
everyone
and
should
strengthen our
be
supplies,
equally,
lower cost, and
that
get things needed more
elections should
quickly.
be free and
We've
fair,
announced $3 billion for over
should be given no
3,000 airports in the country to make them more modern, safe, and sustainable.
is that it
And we're kicking off the largest investment in affordable, reliable, high-speed internet in our nation's history, $65 billion to get to every corner of our country connected, urban, rural, and
do not
suburban.
defend it.
Our infrastructure work also protects health, cleans up the environment, and helps us fight climate
It will
change.
falter.
Across this country, people have been struck and
violent assault that took
they've
place
been
here,
struck by all the changes
very
that are
fact
needed.
Of how
They're
close we
stuck,
came
they're angry, they're
to an
sickened by the
election
broken water and sewer
overturned.
systems, polluted
That
water from the faucets, raw
reflects
sewage in their
fragility
backyards.
of democracy.
I want you to know, I see you, I
Yet,
hear you, we
The
understand.
resolve I saw
And
in
I've
our
seen and
elected
we've
leaders
understand the
when I
damage done in
returned
places
to
like
the
Flint,
Senate
Michigan,
chamber
and
that
Jackson,
night.
Mississippi.
Their
So
resolve not
we've
to
already
yield,
announced over
to certify
$7
the
billion
election.
in clean
Their
water funding
loyalty,
to states
not
so they
to
can
party
fix and upgrade their aging water
but
systems
to the
and sewer systems.
Constitution of the United
It's going to take some
States.
time, but the money's there and they're getting
That
money. Our
reflects
children
its
deserve
strength.
no less. We've
And
also
so,
released an
of
action
course,
plan to
does the
replace
heroism
all of our nation's lead
of
pipes
Capitol
in the next
Police,
decade.
the D.C.
This is the
Metropolitan
United
Police
States of
Department,
America, for God's sake.
the National Guard,
Everyone
and
in
other
this
law
country should
enforcement
be able to
officers
turn on the faucet and
who
drink clean
answered the
water.
call that day,
And it's time to get back to the business of
including
cleaning
those
up the hazardous waste
who later
sites
succumbed,
that poison our land and water and
both
have
visible
stricken entire
and
communities.
invisible.
And getting back to holding polluters
Thoughts
accountable
with all
to
of
keep
the
that
families
pollution
who've
from
lost a
happening
loved
in the first place. The Environmental Protection
I
Agency
wonder,
has announced
how will
$1 billion
January
to clean up 49
remembered
Superfund sites
in the years
in
ahead?
24 states.
Will
We're
it
talking
be
about cleaning
remembered
up rivers in
as a
Ohio,
moment
chemical plants and sites in
accelerated the
Florida,
unraveling
polluted
of
lakes
the
in Michigan,
oldest,
and many more.
greatest
This is long
democracy
overdue, and we
in
have
the
to
world?
stick with it. The Department of Environment is launching a program
A
to
moment
cap and plug
when we
orphaned oil and gas
decided to
wells
secure
that are
and
spewing
strengthen our
methane into the
democracy
air and are dangerous.
for generations.
Many of these wells are in southwestern Pennsylvania, eastern Ohio,
The
but there are hundreds of
American
thousands of them all
is
across the
being
nation. Capping them is
The
going to create
answer,
quality
whether
jobs,
we will meet
just
that
as it took
test
to dig the
resides
well,
where it always
union
has
jobs,
resided in
union
our
jobs to
country.
close the well,
You,
to keep it safe. One of the ways we're going to
work
reach
ahead
my
won't be
goal of
easy.
100% carbon
Here in
pollution-free
this very
electricity by
building,
2035
decision will be
is with
made
wind energy.
about whether we
I visited
uphold
one of the renewable
right
energy
to
labs
vote
in Colorado
ensure
about a
free
month
and fair
ago
elections.
and saw technologies being
Let's
developed
be
there.
clear.
And
We
just this
must
week, the
pass
Department of Interior
voting
also
rights
announced the
bills that are now
largest
before the
ever
Senate.
offshore wind lease
And
sale,
The
which
American
could generate enough clean
must
energy to
also
power
do
nearly
something
2
more.
million homes and create thousands of
We
jobs in
cannot
manufacturing,
sit on the
construction,
sidelines.
operations, and maintenance. It's
We
just the
must
beginning.
unite
Jobs
in
that can't be
defense
outsourced.
of our
We've also seen the
democracy
impact of extreme weather,
in order
taking down transmission lines,
form a more
leaving
perfect
cities and
union.
communities dark for weeks.
establish
So the Department of Energy
justice,
launched a new initiative
ensure
to speed up our efforts to
domestic
strengthen our energy grid with new and
provide
upgraded transmission line
common
towers, keeping the
defense,
power flowing
promote
for Americans
the general
with cleaner, reliable energy.
and secure
And that's going to happen.
blessings
It's
of
going to
liberty
make a big difference.
our
I also want to be clear.
and to our
We're in this
prosperity
to win.
and posterity.
And, you know,
That is the preamble
there's a
of the
lot of work
Constitution
underway.
That President Biden
It's
and
going to
I
create a
swore
whole
an
lot
oath
of jobs.
to uphold
That brings
and
me to the
defend.
announcement I want to make today.
And that is
It's just
the
part of
enduring
the
trust
infrastructure.
of the United States.
The bipartisan
America.
infrastructure law includes the largest investment
My
in our
fellow
nation's
Americans,
bridges since the
it is my
creation of the
honor
interstate highway
To
system.
introduce a public
Bridges to
servant
connect us,
with the
bridges to
character
make
and
America work.
fortitude
Across our
meet
country right now,
this
there are
moment.
45,000
A
bridges,
whose
45,000
life's work
that are in
has
poor
been
condition.
moving our nation
We're seeing photos of some of them
toward
behind
that
me
more
in all
perfect
50 states.
union.
And I've had a
President
chance
Joe
to see
Biden.
some of them myself as I've traveled the country. I was up in New Hampshire, visited a bridge where, if it's not upgraded, weight restriction could mean that school buses and fire trucks would have to travel an additional 10 miles out of the way to get to the other side of the river
Madam Vice
to
President,
deal with getting to school and putting out a
fellow
fire.
Americans,
In New Jersey,
State the obvious.
I just visited the
1
busiest
year ago
bridge
today,
in the Western Hemisphere. But
this
because it's
sacred
not
place,
tall enough for
democracy
ship traffic,
was attacked.
it needs to swing open to let
Simply
barges through. And sometimes when it closes, the
will
rails need to be
people
manually
is under assault.
sledgehammered back into place.
The Constitution.
This slows
our
commerce, increased
Constitution
costs.
faced
I went down to Louisiana
gravest of threats.
and saw the I-10 bridge.
Outnumbered
I
in the
stood with
face
the
of the
mayor
brutal attack,
and looked at that bridge.
Capitol Police,
It's 20 years past
Dixie
its
Metropolitan
plan.
Police Department,
It's handling more than
National
double the
Guard,
number of crossings it was
another
designed to
red law
handle.
enforcement officials
And it's 2
saved
lanes
the rule
narrower
of
than the
law.
interstate that feeds into it,
Our democracy
causing
held.
backups and accidents.
We, the people,
Today, the Secretary of
endured
Transportation, Pete Buttigieg, is
We,
in
the
Philadelphia
people,
at the
prevailed.
Martin Luther King Bridge,
For the
which
first
crosses
time
the
in our
Schuylkill
history,
River. The bridge is no
President
longer safe for vehicles,
had not
even though
just
it used
lost
to
an
carry
election,
25,000
he tried to
vehicles a day.
prevent the peaceful
As we
transfer
prepare
of
to
power
celebrate your
as
birthday,
a violent
we're also
mob
reminded that
breached
too
the
often bridges
Capitol.
and highways were built through the
They
heart of
failed.
historic communities, particularly black
failed.
communities, cutting off
On this day
families,
of
churches, and
remembrance, we
businesses.
make sure that such
We're
attack
going to use our
never,
infrastructure investments
never
to reconnect
happens
communities.
Again.
One thing I'm certain of,
Speaking
everyone out
to
there
you
knows
from
what I'm
Statuary
talking
Hall
about.
in the United
People have
States
written me
Capitol.
about bridges they
This is
depend
where the
on.
House of
One
Representatives
man
met
told me
for
that the
50
bridge he
years
traveled
in the
on every
decades
day
leading up to
is
the
a
Civil
tragedy
War.
waiting to happen.
This is
One
on this
woman wrote
floor
that a bridge near the
where
center
young
of
Congressman of
Kirktown
Illinois, Abraham
had to be
Lincoln,
closed.
sat
Now
at
she
desk
drivers
191.
tourists bypass downtown,
Above him,
consequently
above us,
devastating local businesses.
over that door,
And one person wrote to me to
leading
say,
into the
quote,
rotunda,
"This is your chance to show the
sculpture
people in my
depicting
area
Cleo,
that they matter to you."
the
End of
views
quote.
of history.
I hear you.
In
I
her
hear you.
hands,
You do
an
matter
open
to me.
book
And we are going to get it
in which
done.
she records
My infrastructure
events
includes a total
taking
of
place in
$40
this
billion
chamber below.
in funding for bridge improvements.
Cleo stood watch over this hall
12.5
1 year
billion
ago today.
of that is going to replace
As
most
she
of the most
has
economically
for
significant
more than
bridges in the
200
country.
years.
These are bridges
She
like, and I've
recorded what
seen
took
them,
place.
the Brent Spence
The real
Bridge,
history,
connecting
the real
Ohio and
facts.
Kentucky,
the real truth.
the I-5 Columbia
facts
River
and the
crossing,
truth
connecting
that Vice
Washington
President
and
Harris
Oregon.
shared.
You know,
You and I,
the
The
Blatnick
whole
Bridge
world saw
connecting
with our
Minnesota and
own
Wisconsin.
eyes.
But about two-thirds of the
Bible
bridges
tells
in
us
need of
that
repair
We shall know
in
the
this
truth.
country are considered what they
Truth
call
shall make
off-system
us free.
because they're not
We
directly
shall know
connected
the
to the
truth.
interstate highway system.
Well, here is
These are the
God's
bridges that are
truth
often overlooked
about
when
January
decisions are
6,
being made, but they are
2021.
essential for small
Close your
towns,
eyes.
rural towns, farmers
Go
to
back
get their
to that
products to
day.
market, small businesses
What
to be
do
able
you
to
see?
serve customers. These
Riders,
are the bridges that, when they're closed,
waving for
shut
the
off
first time
delivery
inside
and-
this Capitol.
and routes to school, work, and home.
Confederate flag that
They
symbolizes
create
the
longer
call to
delays
destroy
first responders when every
rip us
second
apart.
counts. So we've included
even during the Civil War. that
27.5
never,
billion
ever happened.
for smaller bridges, including
happened
dedicated
here.
funding for those off-system
2021.
bridges I just described.
What else do you see?
And because maintaining these bridges
Wow.
is often the responsibility of counties or towns
Kicking indoors.
whose budgets are
Free capital.
stretched thin
American
already,
flags on poles
we
being
decided
used
to
as
get
weapons,
rid of the
as
requirement
spears.
that counties or towns
Washington
share
is
the cost.
thrown at the head
The federal
officers.
government is going to
Crowd
pay for
professes love
100%
law enforcement,
of the
assaulted
cost for repairing
police
these small
officers.
bridges.
dragged
Today,
them,
we're releasing
sprayed
the
them,
first
stomped on them.
year of that program, which is $5.5 billion.
140 police officers were injured.
$5.5 billion to
We all
states
heard
and
the
tribes to
police officers
repair
who
and
were there
rebuild
that day
bridges
testify.
to make them
what
safer and
happened?
more usable. This
Officers
is an
called
investment
it
that's going to help connect entire towns and regions to new
medieval
opportunities.
battle.
With this investment,
He was more
we're sending a
afraid
message to
that
those
day than he
communities
was
and to
fighting
the
the
people
war
who
in
call them
Iraq.
home. You matter. We're
They've
building
repeated
back
that
and
since
building
that
back
day.
better
How
with
dare
you.
anyone
We're making sure you're not left behind,
diminish, belittle, or
left
deny
out.
the hell they were
I'll end
put
with this.
through. We
These
saw it with our
investments
own
are
eyes.
consequential. We're just getting
Riders
started.
menaced these
We're
halls.
building back better than
Red
ever
light for
before.
the Speaker of the House.
Clean water for every American.
Literally erecting gallows
We've never
to
done
hang
that
the
before.
Vice President of
Now
the
we're going
United
to do
States of
it.
America.
High-speed internet for every American. We've never done that
Did we
before.
not
And we are. Connecting
see a
forgotten
former
communities,
president
capping wells
who
that are
just
dangerous,
rallied the
strengthening
mob
our
to
power
attack.
grid to make it more
Sitting
resilient to
in a
extreme
private
weather
dining room
changes.
off the
These are
Oval Office
investments.
in the White House,
These are investments the
watching
country
it all on
has never
television.
fully made. Now we are.
Nothing.
You know,
For
we've
hours.
arrived at this by a bipartisan agreement.
Police were assaulted.
There's nothing
Lives
beyond our
were risked.
capacity when we work together.
The nation's capital.
When we get this
under
done,
siege.
we'll get back to being the world again.
This wasn't a group of
We've once
terrorists.
again been number one in the
This was
world
armed
instead
insurrection.
of where we sit now
They
at
weren't
number
looking to
13 in terms
uphold
of the
will
quality
the
of our
people.
infrastructure.
They were looking to deny
That's
the
going to
will of the
mean
people.
more jobs,
They were
good
uphold-
paid jobs,
They weren't looking to uphold
safer
a free and fair election.
communities,
They were looking to
lower
overturn
costs.
one.
We can do this.
They were looking
This
to
is what
save
a better America is going to look like.
America.
I want to thank
were
you all
looking to
for listening.
subvert the
And we've got a lot of
Constitution.
work to do. And the reason I
This
asked
isn't
Mitch
about being bogged
to
down
do
in the
this
past.
is because he knows how
about
to get
making
things
sure the
done. I
past
want
isn't
every
buried.
penny watched how this is spent. Just like when I did
That's
the
the only way
Recovery Act in
forward.
the last administration.
That's what
It
great
matters.
nations do.
It matters.
They
So
don't
thank you
bury
all
the
very
truth.
much. Appreciate it.
They face up to it. Some look hyperbole, but that's the truth. They face up to it. We are a great nation. My fellow Americans, in life there's truth, and tragically there are lies. Lies conceived and spread for profit and power. We must be absolutely clear about what is true and what is a lie. And here's the truth. The former President of the United States of America has created and spread a web of lies about the 2020 election. He's done so because he values power over principle, because he sees his own interest as more important than his country's interest, than America's interest, and because his bruised ego matters more to him than our democracy or our Constitution. He can't accept he lost, even though that's what 93 United States senators, his own attorney general, his own vice president, governors and state officials in every battleground state have all said he lost. That's what 81 million of you did as you voted for a new way forward. He has done what no president in American history, the history of this country, has ever done. He refused to accept the results of an election and the will of the American people. Well, some courageous men and women in the Republican Party are standing against it, trying to uphold the principle of that party. Too many others are transforming that party into something else. They seem no longer to want to be the party of Lincoln, Eisenhower, Reagan, the Bushes. But whatever my other disagreements are with Republicans who support the rule of law and not the rule of a single man, I will always seek to work together with them to find shared solutions where possible. Because if we have a shared belief in democracy, then anything is possible. Anything. And so at this moment, we must decide, what kind of nation are we going to be? Are we going to be a nation that accepts political violence as a norm? Are we going to be a nation where we allow partisan election officials to overturn the legally expressed will of the people? Are we going to be a nation that lives not by the light of the truth, but in the shadow of lies? We cannot allow ourselves to be that kind of nation. The way forward is to recognize the truth and to live by it. The big lie being told by the former president and many Republicans who fear his wrath is that the insurrection in this country actually took place on Election Day, November 3rd, 2020. Think about that. Is that what you thought? Is that what you thought when you voted that day? Taking part in an insurrection, is that what you thought you were doing? Or did you think you were carrying out your highest duty as a citizen and voting? Former president's supporters are trying to rewrite history. They want you to see Election Day as the day of insurrection. And the riot that took place here on January 6th as a true expression of the will of the people. Can you think of a more twisted way to look at this country, to look at America? I cannot. Here's the truth. The election of 2020 was the greatest demonstration of democracy in the history of this country. More of you voted in that election than have ever voted in all of American history. Over 150 million Americans went to the polls and voted that day. In a pandemic, some at great risk to their lives. They should be applauded, not attacked. Right now, in state after state, new laws are being written, not to protect the vote, but to deny it. Not only to suppress the vote, but to subvert it. Not to strengthen and protect our democracy, but because the former president lost, instead of looking at the election results from 2020 and saying they need new ideas or better ideas to win more votes, the former president and his supporters have decided the only way for them to win is to suppress your vote and subvert our elections. It's wrong. It's undemocratic. And frankly, it's un-American. The second big lie being told by the former president and his supporters is that the results of the election of 2020 can't be trusted. The truth is that no election in American history has been more closely scrutinized or more carefully counted. Every legal challenge questioning the results in every court in this country that could have been made was made and was rejected. Often rejected by Republican-appointed judges, including judges appointed by the former president himself, from state courts to the United States Supreme Court. Recounts were undertaken in state after state. Georgia counted its results 3 times, with 1 recount by hand. Phony partisan audits were undertaken long after the election in several states. None changed the results. And in some of them, the irony is the margin of victory actually grew slightly. So let's speak plainly about what happened in 2020. Even before the first ballot was cast, the former president was preemptively sowing doubt about the election results. He built his lie over months. It wasn't based on any facts. He was just looking for an excuse, a pretext, to cover for the truth. He's not just a former president. He's a defeated former president. Defeated by a margin of over 7 million of your votes in a full and free and fair election. There is simply zero proof the election results are inaccurate. In fact, in every venue where evidence had to be produced, an oath to tell the truth had to be taken, the former president failed to make his case. Just think about this. The former president and his supporters have never been able to explain how they accept as accurate the other election results that took place on November 3rd. The elections for governor, United States Senate, House of Representatives. Elections which they closed the gap in the House. They challenged none of that. The president's name was first. Then we went down the line. Governors, senators, House of Representatives. Somehow those results are accurate on the same ballot. But the presidential race was flawed. And on the same ballot, the same day, cast by the same voters, the only difference, the former president didn't lose those races. He just lost the one that was his own. Finally, the third big lie being told by a former president and his supporters is that the mob who sought to impose their will through violence are the nation's true patriots. Is that what you thought when you looked at the mob ransacking the Capitol, destroying property, literally defecating in the hallways, rifling through the desks of senators and representatives, hunting down members of Congress? Patriots? Not in my view. To me, the true patriots were the more than 150 Americans who peacefully expressed their vote at the ballot box. The election workers who protected the integrity of the vote. And the heroes who defended this Capitol. You can't love your country only when you win. You can't obey the law only when it's convenient. You can't be patriotic when you embrace and enable lies. Those who stormed this Capitol, and those who instigated and incited, and those who called on them to do so, held a dagger at the throat of America, at American democracy. They didn't come here out of patriotism or principle. They came here in rage, not in service of America, but rather in service of one man. Those who incited the mob, the real plotters who were desperate to deny the certification of this election, and defy the will of the voters. But their plot was foiled. Congressmen, Democrats, Republicans stayed. Senators, representatives, staff, they finished their work the Constitution demanded. They honored their oath to defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic. Look, folks, now it's up to all of us, to we the people, to stand for the rule of law, to preserve the flame of democracy, to keep the promise of America alive. The promise is at risk, targeted by the forces that value brute strength over the sanctity of democracy, fear over hope, personal gain over public good. Make no mistake about it, we're living at an inflection point in history, both at home and abroad. We're engaged anew in a struggle between democracy and autocracy, between the aspirations of the many and the greed of the few, between the people's right of self-determination and the self-seeking autocrat. From China to Russia and beyond, they're betting that democracy's days are numbered. They've actually told me democracy is too slow, too bogged down by division to succeed in today's rapidly changing, complicated world. And they're betting. They're betting America will become more like them and less like us. They're betting that America is a place for the autocrat, the dictator, the strongman. I do not believe that. That is not who we are. That is not who we have ever been. And that is not who we should ever, ever be. Our founding fathers, as imperfect as they were, set in motion an experiment that changed the world, literally changed the world. Here in America, the people would rule. Power would be transferred peacefully, never at the tip of a spear or the barrel of a gun. They committed to paper an idea that they couldn't live up to, but an idea that couldn't be constrained. Yes, in America, all people are created equal. We reject the view that if you succeed, I fail. If you get ahead, I fall behind. If I hold you down, I somehow lift myself up. The former president who lies about this election and the mob that attacked this Capitol could not be further away from the core American values. They want to rule, or they will ruin. Ruin what our country fought for at Lexington and Concord, at Gettysburg and Omaha Beach, Seneca Falls, Selma, Alabama. What we were fighting for? The right to vote, the right to govern ourselves, the right to determine our own destiny. With rights come responsibilities. The responsibility to see each other as neighbors, Maybe we disagree with that neighbor, but they're not an adversary. Responsibility to accept defeat. Then get back in the arena and try again the next time to make your case. Responsibility to see that America is an idea. An idea requires vigilant stewardship. As we stand here today, 1 year since January 6, 2021, the lies that drove the anger and madness we saw in this place, they have not abated. So we have to be firm, resolute, and unyielding in our defense of the right to vote and to have that vote counted. Some have already made the ultimate sacrifice in this sacred effort. Jill and I have mourned police officers in this Capitol Rotunda not once but twice in the wake of January 6th. Once to honor Officer Brian Sicknick, who lost his life the day after the attack, and the second time to honor Officer Billy Evans, who lost his life defending this Capitol as well. We think about the others who lost their lives and were injured, and everyone living with the trauma of that day, from those defending this Capitol, to members of Congress in both parties and their staffs, to reporters, cafeteria workers, custodial workers, and their families. Don't kid yourself. The pain and scars from that day run deep. I've said it many times, and it's no more true or real than we think about the events of January 6th. We are in a battle for the soul of America. A battle that by the grace of God and the goodness and greatness of this nation, we will win. Believe me, I know how difficult democracy is, and I'm crystal clear about the threats America faces. But I also know that our darkest days can lead to light and hope. From the death and destruction, as the Vice President referenced in Pearl Harbor, came the triumph over the forces of fascism. From the brutality of Bloody Sunday on the Edmund Pettus Bridge came historic voting rights legislation. So now let's step up, write the next chapter in American history, where January 6th marks not the end of democracy, but the beginning of a renaissance of liberty and fair play. I did not seek this fight brought to this Capitol 1 year ago today, but I will not shrink from it either. I will stand in this breach. I will defend this nation, and I will allow no one to place a dagger at the throat of democracy. We will make sure the will of the people is heard, that the ballot prevails, not violence, that authority in this nation will always be peacefully transferred. I believe the power of the presidency and the purpose is to unite this nation, not divide it, to lift us up, not tear us apart. To be about us, not about me. Deep in the heart